it's so easy for a child to be groomed online. You know, even on platforms like WhatsApp, all it takes is for one person to get your child's contact number and they're put into a group, you know, a WhatsApp group where there could be sort of 20 or 30 paedophiles just sat requesting pictures. It is a madness.
This is the shop. Here, you can see it, yeah?
Yeah.
Comfortable enough for that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Looks good. Let's just get a wee bit louder.
Should have done a vocal warm-up, shouldn't I? Hi, I'm Mike from Darklight, and I'm a paedophile hunter.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
Yeah, all good with us?
That's great.
Sweet.
Alright, let's start. So how did you get into it?
I experienced some things as a child that I really shouldn't have gone through, that I never got justice for, I never got answers for. So it kind of took me to a dark place. I was in a dark place for a lot of years, and then I saw one day, after having multiple breakdowns on Facebook, that there was a live video of a paedophile being stung, and it intrigued me. So I contacted the team and I asked, you know, what I needed to do to be able to help, and it started from there.
So, can you take us through it step by step in detail? So, what's the first thing you do to make this thing happen?
So we set up dormant profiles on social media platforms that are you know, sort of full of children. Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all of the major platforms. We will set up a dormant decoy profile, and we will make that profile appear like it's that of a child with, you know, various different methods, and we'll await contact.
So what are those methods to make a profile of your child?
Just, you know, little things, you know, putting pictures of horses on. Like, I'm as a decoy, because I decoy my own work as well. As a decoy, I'm going, you know, if I'm in Tesco's or Asda's or wherever it is, and I'm buying something, I'll take a picture of something in the store and I'll upload it to my Instagram, so it looks like I'm out shopping with my nan, or I'm out doing, you know, you've got to look like you're a child. The next steps are we're contacted by a suspect profile. Or, you know, as soon as it comes through to us, it's always viewed as a suspect profile because it's making contact with what appears to be a young girl's profile. Contact will be made, and at the first point of contact from the other side, we'll initiate contact with them, we'll return contact, but we'll never send the first message ever. And from that, obviously, they'll find out how old we are in the first couple of sentences, and from there, I'd say 98% of them continue on into sexual conversation. We can go from somebody going through a long grooming process, whereas they'll take months to try and build a relationship with you, or to build a friendship so you trust them, and then there's other ones that'll just come on straight away. They'll ask for naked pictures and then, you know, block you afterwards, or they'll skip through profiles. They'll use various different tactics to try and target one child. We start to build a profile of who that person is, looking through Facebook, looking through online registries, trying to locate that. Obviously, using the child decoy, we're able to obtain evidence and information about that person. So what we can gradually do is build a case together. We can see who's living in the property where that person's living. We can see, you know, we can find out what job that person does. We can find out, you know, through Google and different resources, whether they've got any past convictions that have gone through court. There's, you know, it's a long process, but as soon as they start to go in that direction, we'll start an investigation. I'll give the go ahead to start an investigation, and we'll try and get everything that we can, looking at, you know, the small things, facial profiles, tattoos, car registrations, brickwork details on people's houses, and it really is quite extensive what we go into.
All right, let's start with your we're just doing some face shots. So just look straight ahead, Mike. Looking here. And Jim's going to do a little pan across your face, but just keep looking at my hand.
So a sting is like it's the end of our process, but the start of the legal process. And when we sting, we typically we'll go out and meet the paedophiles after they've arranged to meet with the child that they're speaking to, and then from there, obviously, we'll apprehend them. 9 times out of 10, it'll go on Facebook unless there's safeguarding issues around where we are, children in the area, things like that. We've got to be really careful because while it's not a massive platform, we've got some kind of social responsibility that we need to be doing things correctly in the best interest of the community that we're in. I'm not going to go into what is required for us to go out and do a successful sting, but there are certain elements of the chat that need to be there to enable us to get a prosecution. So sometimes it is a waiting game, and what we have to do kind of in the meantime is try and make sure that they're not speaking to any other children.
How do you do that?
Mainly by either contacting social services, contacting the police. There's not just... It's a very grey area in what we do because there are people online that are vulnerable themselves, so we have to risk assess everything that comes through us. We're not professionally trained in the sense of running risk assessments, but I've been doing it long enough to kind of get a grasp of what's right and what's wrong and the right way to do things. So, for instance, if we get someone who starts speaking to one of the decoys and we suspect that person might have some kind of learning difficulties, contact at that point is stopped, and then we'll reach out to adult social services.
Look up towards the camera. So just I want you to move your head up and then head down. Down then up. How do you feel before you go on a sting?
I think it's the same feeling. I've stung a lot of different sexual predators from all different walks of life, and now I'm used to the same. It's the same patter, the same. They come out with the same excuses. Oh, I was hacked, or I didn't know what I was doing, or I was drunk, or all these different things, and for me, like, all of those, it doesn't matter, who you are, all of those factors should not make you want to go and harm a child or do the things that they do online. So what we do in essence is we'll arrive at the meeting place, we'll tell them who we are, pull them to the side, away from, public, and we'll confront them with the evidence that we've got. But as we confront them, the police are being contacted by another member of the team, and then the police will obviously attend and arrest them based on the evidence that we've got. And the sting is the reason that we live stream it to Facebook is simply to make sure that no allegations can be made of any wrongdoing on our part, but also at the same time from an evidential point of view, because if when we're questioning this person about what they're doing, if they admit it, then obviously that can be used in court against them.
Okay, do you want to just talk us through a case? What is an example of a case that you're like, this is...
What kind of case? Like, do you want the worst of the worst?
What's the one you feel proudest of?
We had a team of decoys working for us, and a guy was under a profile called Danny Williams on Facebook, and within the paedophile hunting community, if that's what you want to call it, there's various different teams, various different independent decoys who don't do it for teams. It is a big build up of people that are all doing it for the right reasons. Anyway, I'd made contact with another team who had him and was speaking to him, but we didn't know who he was. We didn't, because he was hiding behind a fake profile. So I had to take a risk because it was getting progressively worse. He was talking about bullying the kids, talking about, anal sex with the kids, and it just got really, really bad, to the point where I was even telling my decoys not to engage in conversation because it was just vile. He was a bully, a narcissistic bully. And he was from Carnforth, near Morecambe. So we went to Carnforth. We turned up at his address, and his dad invited us in. And when his dad invited us in, his dad said, I think I've got an idea what it's about, because he's been arrested for something like this before. So he was already released under investigation. So he was under investigation at that point, and then we turned up and stung him. I couldn't go live on that occasion because we'd been invited into the property, and obviously there's privacy laws and things. But I put a picture of him on the page probably half an hour, 40 minutes after we'd left the police station. And within 10 minutes I was contacted off a 17-year-old girl who had been raped by him from the age of 12 upwards. She'd never told anybody in her life that she'd been raped or abused by him, and I was the first person that she disclosed to. I instantly knew that I needed to put her in touch with the police if she was willing to do that. She did that, and the following day she went and gave a statement and secured 5 counts of rape on him. And on the 4th of June, just gone, he was jailed for 8 years. So, you can see just in that in itself, that's a real person. That's a real 12-year-old who's had to live through those times. And then just because I put a picture on a Facebook page, what a strong, inspirational young woman. We frequently get parents coming to us who have got children, and their children have been contacted by a predator. They've tried to contact the police, and the police just haven't got the resources to deal with it, or it's going to take a while for the police to deal with it, and they come to us. So a majority of what we do with the page is done behind closed doors. It's not, it's a visible entity, but there's a lot more work that goes on behind it. Things like safeguarding, things like making sure that the people that volunteer within my organisation are okay, and that it's not getting too much for them, because it can become a very, very dark, stressful place to work.
How do you present the evidence? How do you pull the evidence together?
So the evidence is put together in sort of a paper form. So we'll have all of the chat logs. So that's like the screenshots of the conversation that's been had, and then from there we will burn all the evidence onto a disc. So as soon as the police get hold of it, they can literally just put the disc in and put it all onto their system. And they're also provided with a DVD copy of the live video. So literally we will record the live. The laptop that I take with me will then burn off a disc for them, so they've got a copy of the live, a copy of the evidence, and then on top of that they've obviously got the video of everything that's happened.
How well do you know the law? So
I'm fully aware of the law in terms of what a predator needs to do to commit an offence. We've had over 70 cases that have gone through court, and they've all, resulted in successful prosecutions. The Sex Offences Act 2003 is like a Bible to me, just because I'm quite OCD, so I need to make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed before I do anything. And I was told by the first police officer that I spoke to, he said, I'm not going to be able to stop you doing this, but if you are going to continue doing it, at least make sure you're doing it the safe way. And that's where we've got a tick list from. So it kind of stems from the Sex Offences Act 2003.
And then what I'm going to say now is, do you have any children yourself?
Yeah.
And how do you keep tabs on what they do?
It's funny enough you say that. Because while I do what I do, and I've done it successfully for nearly 3 years, predators are still able more than able. You know, my children, my two boys have got Snapchat. No, not Snapchat. They've got TikTok and Instagram. I won't allow them Facebook, but their Instagrams are linked to my phone, and the TikToks I check every day just to, you know, make sure all the profiles are locked down and stuff. Simply because I don't want my children to live in a time, and you know, this again is another reason why I do what I do. I don't want my kids living in a time where they can't do what their friends are doing because there's so many risks outside. For me, it's an education. I'd rather educate my kids and make sure that they're safe and they know they're safe. But you know, it does happen. A predator was able to get through to my son and message him on Instagram and say, you know, this was only probably about 2 months ago. And say, oh, you know, I want you to send me pictures, I'll pay you money. Yeah, it's mad. And, you know, doing what I do, you'd think that my children's accounts would be out of reach, and it's just, that's not the case.
What kind of techniques do we need to be aware of that paedophiles would use?
They will hide behind fake profiles. They will quite often, you know, set up Instagram profiles of celebrities and hide behind that. And there's just so many different ways, you know. It's so easy for a child to be groomed online. You know, even on platforms like WhatsApp, all it takes is for one person to get your child's contact number and they're put into a group, you know, a WhatsApp group where there could be sort of 20 or 30 paedophiles just sat requesting pictures. It is a madness. It takes 5 minutes to check a child's device, literally 5 minutes. There's not many, you know, there's probably 5 or 6 apps that children go on that are the most popular platforms, and they're also most popular for grooming. So if you've got a child that's on, say, Snapchat or Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook, and you don't know who your child is talking to, then really you should know who your child is talking to, because they could be speaking to anybody. And for me, that you know, the whole purpose of me coming here today is to try and reach out to parents that the risks online are very, very real, and your children are in danger if they're left unsupervised on an iPhone or a tablet.
Well, my question I'm going to ask is, how real is the danger?
Real. As real as anything. We had a case through the other day that was a predator who'd sent an 8-year-old. Why an 8-year-old was on Instagram, I don't know. But there was an 8-year-old on Instagram, and the parents had checked the device, thankfully, and found that he'd sent indecent images, not of children, but of himself to an 8-year-old child. When we've looked at his profile, not the child's profile, the predator's profile, we've actually seen that there's a further 49 different children that are on his friends list, and these are real children's profiles. So what we've then had to do is go through the profiles and try and research who the parents are, what school they go to, trying to pick up distinguishing features, even things so little as like a tie from high school, the emblem that's on a tie. Like, we'll look for things like that and see if we can trace it. It turned out this predator was, I don't know where he was, but he was one friend's request away from having access to my son again. There was a lot of girls in my area where I live that had been contacted, and I had to contact their parents and make them aware. One of the girls literally lived at the bottom of the street, so really, really close to home. The dangers are stupidly real, you know. Is that why you put your thumb up? You putting your thumb up kind of threw me. I was like, what the
Do you mind talking about how you've got that blank profile that has 157?
Yeah, get it out.
Yeah, let's see.
Is that no? It's on my other phone. 1 minute. I should open a sunbed shop in here.
You must be roasting me. I don't know how you're doing this.
So literally, I've I set up a profile not so long ago, probably a week or two ago, and already on that profile is 173 friends requests, and that's of a child. That's a profile of a 12-year-old girl, and pretty much all of them are from England. So 173 friends requests, and I can guarantee that some of them will be linked to rings, paedophile rings. Yeah, there's they come from all different walks of life, all different shapes, all different sizes, all different ages. It's not there's no. Unfortunately, paedophiles aren't the guy stood outside on a dark night with a trench coat and a pair of binoculars. Like, they can literally be whoever they want to be behind a profile. So yeah, it's dangerous.
Do you think the UK has a problem?
I think the world has a problem. I think it's it's a systemic infestation. It's everywhere. You've only got to look at things like the news to see that MPs are getting caught up in sex scandals, and Cyril Smith, the whole Rochdale thing, Jimmy Savile. It goes right the way up in society.
This might be a strange question, but do you hate the predators?
No. For me, all I want to do when I'm going out and getting them, it's not even about what they've been doing online. The law can deal with that. That's a criminal offence. That's that's the justice system. When I'm going out to sting a predator, the first thing I'm thinking about is the safeguarding that will take place on the back of that arrest. So the police will put safeguarding measures in place, social services will be alerted, any children that has been immediately round will be questioned and spoken to, as will the parents, to make sure that the predator's not done any harm or there's no significant risk to that child. So it's in the first instance, it's about those children that are immediately around the predator. When it comes to the case and stuff, that's for the police to deal with.
Will you ever stop?
No, never. I've pretty much now dedicated my life to it, because we are making a difference. We are seeing that as a direct result of the page being there and the awareness that's generated, we're seeing real results, and it is quite possibly, I can say this, it's quite possibly the best therapy that I've ever had, because it's exposure therapy. Every single time I go out on the road, apart from today, I'm stood in front of a paedophile, asking them why they're doing what they're doing, and I've never got the answer. I'll never be able to understand what they do, but every time we get a result, it's as if little Mike gets a little bit of peace, a little bit of a little bit more of the jigsaw slots into place.
Why are you wearing a mask?
Because it's not about me. There's people that'll see this that'll know who I am. They know, there'll be people that'll see this that live next door to me. So what I don't want is people stopping me in the street and saying, "Oh my God, you're a paedophile hunter," because I've seen other hunters go down that road, and I've seen the whole Facebook persona take over. That's not me. It's not who I am. I'm just doing it because I can and because I want to, and it's the right thing to do. So I believe in the power of one. For me, when I started on this journey, I wanted to try and stop another version of myself being created through abuse. I know that having lived the way I've lived for the past however many years, it's not easy to live with them kind of demons. It's not easy to wake up in the morning sometimes and like yourself. So if I can stop just one person with this from becoming another version of me and having to live the same kind of life that I have, then that's the power of one. You'll never truly understand how many people you're reaching, but as long as it's one, then job's done.
Okay, I think we've got everything we need.
Yeah, is that a wrap? Me breathing. And how many of those friends requests are from Middle Eastern men, I wonder? 2%, I'd say. 2% were from Middle Eastern. 98% white British males. Just saying. Don't look at stereotypes. Stereotypes are BS.